Welcome back to another episode. So, Meta just froze their AI hiring after a $1 billion talent war. Apple is secretly begging Google to save Siri. And get this, Elon Musk tried to convince Mark Zuckerberg to help him buy OpenAI for a reported $97 billion.
So, what happens when the companies that control our digital life start to turn on each other? We're going to dive into some of this today because when competition becomes desperate, we see some interesting moves. So, why are some of the smartest people in tech jumping ship faster than rats on the Titanic? Today, we're going to break down some of the big power moves that are reshaping everything we know about tech.
Totally. All right, so let's start into it. So we had two more. Well, first off, my name is McKay Thomason. I go by Meet McKay on YouTube. This is my father's startup hack, where we talk everything off camera about business, tech, finance, everything in between. And we decided to bring some of our kitchen table conversations right here to you guys, and you guys have been seemingly enjoying it so far. So thank you guys so much for the support. And startup hack, what are you all about?
So we love to train software developers as well as build custom software solutions for companies. So you can always reach out to us at startuphack.com/Spencer. And our favorite compliment for both McKay and I is if you guys leave a comment down below. So we love to chat with you guys both in and out of the live. So make sure you leave comments because we love to hear your guys' take on this too.
Totally. Awesome. So let's jump right into it. So right here, I have this story that we have more. Let me make sure I have this right. Nope. Okay. There it is. Okay. So we have two more OpenAI researchers jumping ship to Meta. So this AI talent war continues. What do you make of this? Are people getting tired of the GPT-5 and are they wanting to go to Mark Zuckerberg with all these pay packages? What is it?
This is a sign of, the bubble bursting. We've talked about the bubble bursting before. This is a sign of it. When they can't bring in new talent, when they're just rehashing old talent, when everybody's, part of the sign here is that there's definitely trouble at OpenAI. So we talked about, the Titanic sinking and, rats trying to get off. This is people jumping ship off of OpenAI as fast as they possibly can. Sam Altman has lost almost every one of the original researchers that built GPT-3. All of them were frustrated with the GPT-5 launch. Many of them, even before it launched, left. And this was for Mark Zuckerberg and everybody else, music to their ears and wonderful. They're definitely excited about this. So, but this is part of what we see, right? We see that when the market knows that it needs to niche down, you see people starting to try to steal those who are the smartest in this space. And we're definitely see that stealing. I like this graph that you have out right there because you can see that, this emergence from many different companies and Mark Zuckerberg is trying to play big as we're going to talk about in other areas too.
Yes, totally. So yeah, you can just see how, like you said, most of his original team is gone. And I believe the chief researcher of OpenAI said, quote, "Someone has broken into our home and stolen something," referring to these employees. And Sam Altman called Meta's tactics culturally damaging. But it's like what Mark is doing. It seems to be working like crazy. So this kind of transitions pretty well into our next point. Why is Meta deciding to halt AI hiring from here on out?
So it's been an interesting time at Meta because, their original Llama 3, then went to 3.1, went to 3.2. They were very successful on the 3 series. The 4 series was an absolute flop. Now, Zuckerberg didn't walk in and immediately, cut everybody and let heads roll. What he did instead was he said, cool, we're going to bring in some new talent and try to shake this up. And that's exactly what he's done. He's brought in a ton of new talent, then slowly frozen hiring, and then kind of squeezed out some of these other people. So my guess is that because you see these, the news articles about these crazy pay packages, he brought in this new talent with crazy pay packages and probably froze a bunch of his current guys' pay because of the flop of the 4 series of AI. And my guess is they're like, cool, you're going to pay those people and we're not getting, they probably bailed, right? And so there was a handful of people who bailed from the original that left in the 4. So Mark is definitely trying to play all out in this. And Mark has been known to definitely not mess around when it comes to playing big, and he's willing to put money where it should matter.
Totally. So do you think he's happy with his team? Like that's why he's freezing. He's happy with his team. He's done poaching, or do you think we'll continue to see more?
I think they did a huge major reshuffle. They split it into four different teams, and I can't remember the four teams right off the top of my head, but they split into four different teams to focus on various different parts. And I actually think Zuckerberg's trying to play the long game now. And I think as part of that, he's like, cool, I put all the smartest people in the room. I'm letting them kind of self-organize a little bit. And I'm sure he was involved in that because everybody says the heads of this say they are reporting directly to Zuckerberg. And then he is now letting them kind of start to figure out. And then that's when they're starting to, to let some people go, to make some changes, cut some of the projects, and really try to position for the next series of AI. As we see in another article that we're going to talk in a little bit later, you can see that Zuckerberg is definitely willing to go all in on this. And he recognizes, and Meta's actually done a lot of eating their own dog food, as we call it in the software industry, right? Where they actually have internalized a lot of their AI projects. So their actually largest AI successes has been internal use of AI.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's actually to your point. This bottom paragraph says right here that they're making their new AI models closed, which is a departure from the company's longtime philosophy of open sourcing its models. What do you take about them closing their open source? Is that just they don't want to let all their secrets out of the bag, or what do you think?
Yeah, it's an attempt to try to keep competitive advantage, and you can do similar to what XAI and Elon Musk just recently did. So Elon Musk just recently open sourced Grok 2.5, right? And he open sourced that model, released it onto Hugging Faces, and said that every new model they'll release the old model 6 months after. And so he said and so I could see Meta doing a similar type of pattern, and it's to try to keep a competitive edge. If you're spending, I don't remember what the exact number is, $65 billion. I was close.
Billion this year. That's what the company said and it's going to be largely going towards data centers and hiring AI researchers.
Yeah, it is interesting, so they just open sourced in August. They just open sourced Dino V3, which is actually their machine learning language model. So they are still open sourcing some of the things, but I think their large LLMs so far haven't proved to be to gain them a ton by open sourcing. And so, the open source community is, obviously pretty sad about it. I'm pretty sad about it. We build on a lot of different open source projects. So for all of our clients right now, every single one of them, we are implementing open source models. So it's going to be interesting to see how the world continues to shift from these big people who are spending so much on AI and on training these models to see, the democratization of AI and to see at what phase. I think ultimately everybody will probably do something fairly similar to what X just did, right? Where they build it, they keep their proprietary, their big one, and then they release the old one 6 months later. So they can still say, look, see, we're playing with the community, we're doing this. And it does actually keep it relevant. One of the reasons they do that strategy, because the reason we saw OpenAI release GPT OSS, which is essentially the 4 series model before they released 5, right? It was literally 2 days before, is that suddenly there was a ton of ChatGPT hosting provided all across the web, from AWS to all these other people. So it actually helps raise the brand name, and everybody goes, oh, ChatGPT 5, I want to go host that for my server and my project. And they run over and they do it, but it's actually not GPT 5, but it's like just ChatGPT, and that's what they do. So it's kind of a brand awareness, but that's really the reason they open source these, is because it allows the hosting providers to be able to then host it. So, Grok open sourcing 2.5, suddenly you see a whole bunch of Grok hosting pop up.
Yeah, no, that's a good call. So do you have anything else on the hiring freeze?
I think this is going to be an interesting move. Zuckerberg's no idiot. He's definitely proved to be shrewd. He's definitely proved to be, to really continue to drive Meta. Meta has the profits to be able to spend on this. One of the differences that Meta has in a little different category, and I think, and we'll kind of dive into this a bit today, I think some of your winners are going to be the people who are able to fund their projects on other ways other than AI. Because here's the problem that we're going to see as the bubble starts to burst. And we're already starting to see some retraction of the market on AI. And I don't think we're going to see as sharp of a burst, per se, as we did in the dot-com bubble burst, but there's definitely the beginning signs of a bubble burst. But what you're going to see is you're going to see the successful ones are the ones who can fund it with other ways. So Google relies on their search, Facebook relies on their advertising. And so to Zuckerberg spending 72 billion as pocket change. He's literally spending that out of their net revenue comfortably without having to go out to outside investors. So when you have somebody like OpenAI that can only rely on their AI revenue and having to go out and raise funds, and who is burning cash at 4 times the rate that they're earning it, that's not a successful model. But you've got Google and you've got Meta who have other ways to fund these and can continue to fund these based off of that. And then even if it were to flop, Meta will still have use for those data centers, right?
Yeah.
OpenAI flops, there's nothing for them to do with those data centers.
Yeah, I mean, they could lease them out, but that's not very profitable. I was just looking. I don't have a super confirmed source, so maybe you can tell me if this is true or not. But Sam Altman did kind of roll over and say, yeah, GPT-5, we kind of did let down in terms of expectations. But it's all eyes on GPT-6. Do you think that we're going to get into this endless cycle of don't worry, the next model is going to be better?
100%. We're already there. So in GPT-4, they went 4 and then they went 4.0 mini, and the 4.0 mini was actually the most successful of the 4 launches for OpenAI. 5 was such a dismal failure, they had to bring back 4.0 mini, right? They had originally removed it, and then within a week or two, they brought it back. That what you're referencing is about 10 days ago now, Sam Altman publicly announced that they failed on GPT-5 and was immediately talking about the features of GPT-6, and then also dropped the big bomb saying, yeah, we're starting to see the bubble burst. And he directly referenced that.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. I think that's interesting. Something that I'm thinking about now, do you think companies that are just LLMs are going to become a commodity unless they're paired with hardware?
I think they're going to have other services. I think you're just going to have to see whether it's paired with hardware or not. I mean, not necessarily. So one of the big examples that comes to mind is Anthropic. I think Anthropic is one of the few that will survive. They're not pairing with hardware. But they're definitely one of the ones playing. But see, Anthropic's gone really smart because Claude is one of the best ones. They've stayed in their lane. They're starting a new safety team. But the other part about Claude that they've really done is they've gone after the developers. Claude Code is one of the best tools out there. They're stealing a ton of market share from Cursor right now. And hands down, every developer will tell you the Claude models are one of the best. One of the only people to compete with them right now is Gemini with Google, right? And so they've niched down, and I think this is again part of that bubble burst that we're seeing, where we're starting to see companies really specialized. And I think Anthropic is one of the ones that hasn't tried to pair with hardware, and I think still can be successful.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. I think that does make sense, specialized use cases. But like in the fact of OpenAI, are they going to have to come out with a phone or something to stay relevant in 10 years? Or do you think that the household name is going to be enough to save them for a while?
Well, so right now, OpenAI, I think, is the perfect example of too big to fail. I mean, when you've grabbed 700 million users, I don't care how bad you are. If you have 700 million eyeballs, you can kind of screw up a lot and still get away with it.
Do you think there is a lane for them to come out with a phone? Because before there was a Google phone, there was Google Search, and then Google Search kind of morphed into Google Pixel, and they started to offer all of these other different hardware aspects. Do you think that OpenAI can get into hardware eventually?
It'll be interesting to see as we watch the antitrust suit play out, if Google is truly forced to sell Chrome. I think the natural person who likely will buy that will be OpenAI. I think they have the capital. The capital play on OpenAI is a really tricky one. They're going to have to figure out how to tighten their belt. Right now, reports are they're spending 4 times the amount that they earn. That can't go on forever. Investors won't keep pumping money into that. They are going to struggle to go public because of their charter. That's going to take years to unwind. So I think the bigger play is, rather than trying to build their own phone, I think it'll be more of them trying to grab something like Chrome. They've talked about they've publicly said they would purchase Chrome. So browser's probably a smarter play. Yeah. I mean, Musk talked about building his own phone for a while and retreated from that idea very quickly. I think anybody who tries to enter that market right now to beat either Apple or Google's dominance in that space will lose.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know if Zuckerberg or Musk are going to let OpenAI have a cheap grab at Chrome. I think it's going to be. I'm very curious to see who's gonna purchase it if it does need to be sold.
Yeah, I mean, I think the price tag they put on it was 57 billion.
Yeah, and I mean, but to have everybody, so many people use Chrome that I don't know. It'd be hard. I don't think Elon will roll over and just give that to OpenAI.
No, I don't think anybody's. I mean, Google's not going to let go of it unless they're absolutely forced to. There's not a number that's going to make Google like. There's literally no number that would. I mean, it's such a linchpin of Google's offerings that they would not between mobile, right? Because that's the other part of it. Is people think Chrome, and a lot of times they think the desktop, but they forget the dominance that Google has on Chrome on mobile too.
Yeah, I was going to say,
so
it'll still come pre-installed on Google devices if they have to sell Chrome.
That's a huge part of how they'll unwind it, because to unwind that, they're going to have to also split. There's a handful of things, because that then dives into Chrome OS, which then dives into Android and the integration with Chrome OS to Android. Like that's a deep rabbit hole. So I'm sure the judge who's sitting there trying to make this ruling saying thou shalt, sell Chrome doesn't even understand, is trying to figure out and with how in the world they'd even unwind that. And Google's purposely wound that so tight that it's almost impossible to wind, because it even then winds into YouTube.
Yeah, no, that does sound like a mess, and we'll definitely be covering that here as that story continues to develop. So be sure to subscribe. All right, so let's dive into this next. This story kind of took social media by stage when it broke late last week. That Apple's Bloomberg reported that Apple is in talks to use Google's Gemini for their Siri revamp. I think you and I have gone on hours-long rants at this point about how bad Siri is and how much potential it has. But Google, really? Their enemy? What?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. It is interesting that Google is kind of their enemy, but you also have to remember about the search partnership that's been between Apple and Google for many years, right? Google's been has been the primary search on, preloaded onto Apple for many years at I don't remember what the value of that is, but it's a huge number that Google pays Apple for that. So a long-standing partnership there. While they're kind of enemies, so to speak, in Android versus, iOS, while they're kind of enemies at the same time, Apple is Tim Cook is no slouch. He knows how to build with people that he can stay with. You notice that he didn't really approach Anthropic. They kind of talked about Perplexity.
Actually, he did. He said the company previously approached OpenAI and Anthropic for similar discussions by using their technology to power Siri, and reportedly, Google has begun training a model that could run on Apple servers. Apple's not expected to make a decision about whether to bring on a partner for the Siri revamp for another several weeks.
So I think this would be a big move. I've said that Apple could have bought Perplexity because it would have just been a build, a buy and then build, right? They could have taken Perplexity and built on top of it. Google would allow them to. So first of all, I think Google's going to be one of the winners. Google was actually one of the first people with their DeepMind group into AI. They were into AI before AI was really popular. ChatGPT came on the scene and scared the pants off of Google, and Google came in and really had to shake things up. But ultimately, I think Google's going to be one of the winners here. Gemini Pro 2.5 is one of the best out there. It's probably second best for coding, in my opinion. I use it very frequently. It's one of the best for image generation. And when you really think about who's going to win in this space, is the person who's going to win in this space is one who has the most data. And who has more data than Google?
Not many people.
I mean, arguably there's nobody out there that has more data than Google. And the other take on it too is who has more server capacity, right? Server capacity, power, all of this. Who knows how to scale a data center? Google. So if you're Apple and you're late to the game, you're just like, I'm gonna pick the winner.
Yeah.
That I already have other partnerships with that has worked.
And not only has data centers, because OpenAI, XAI, everybody has these massive data centers, but Google knows how to be safe with consumer data. And I think Apple highly values that.
100%. Apple values that. And the other thing is that there is going to be massive amounts of lawsuits that will eventually crush. I think will eventually crush OpenAI. I think there's just tons of lawsuits that are mounting that I think they've been able to keep at arm's length because lawsuits take time. So
Yeah.
OpenAI is trying to move faster than the lawsuits, and I think they're trying to keep them. Google clearly knows how to, like you said, play in this space and use customer data wisely.
Totally. Yeah, I think that would be a fascinating partnership. Do you think that's a good move for Apple rather than developing something on their own?
This is a funny time to get into the market when we're seeing the bubble burst. And bubble burst meaning like the technology is not going to go away. AI is not going away. Let's make that really clear. And everybody thinks that like I'm an AI hater and like I get called all kinds of names and stuff. But I'm an AI realist, and AI is not going away. And Google's been in the DeepMind game for over a decade at this point, almost 2 decades. I think DeepMind was started about 15 years ago. I'd have to go look it up. But they've been in this game for a long time. And like you said, they know how to handle customer data. So they've been taking the data and moving it over into in safe ways. And they're going to be the ones who's going to be smartest with this. And so if you're Apple and you want to just bet on a sure thing, Google's not going to lose in this space.
So why can't Apple do it? Do they not have the talent? Is it the time? Is it the security? Apple is one of the biggest companies in the world, and they can't figure out how to stand up something.
Do they want to? Like I ask customers all the time, like because I'll have clients come to me and they'll be like, "Well, we could da da da," or I'll bring them something and say, "Well, hey, we could build X, Y, and Z," and then I'll say, "Is that the business you want to be in?" And that's, I think, the biggest question here is starting a whole AI team something Apple wants to be in? Or can they just pay somebody for it and then do what Apple does and mark it up 50% and sell it, which they've been very successful at doing for years and years.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's just kind of a bummer. I wanted to see Apple compete in this space, and instead it just sounds like they want to be the customer, which isn't a bad move. Like you said, do you want to be the entrepreneur building it, or would you rather just be the customer and keep doing what you're good at?
Well, and instead we hear Apple just doubled down and made a 3-year plan for how they're going to reinvent the iPhone, right? And I don't exactly know what that means. I'm very curious to hear what that means.
It was like flip. It was so funny because I thought I saved it to show it to you. It was flip phone, the curved glass around the edges, and there was one other thing and the light phone. And it was just like, you were right. Like Google has done this for the last 10 years, and now Apple's just getting into it. So I thought that was funny.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be curious to see what they do that's somehow different. But at the same time, Apple's riding off into the sunset and they're still turning profits every quarter. So
yeah, totally. Let's jump into this next story here. I'm fascinated to hear what you think about this because I love Elon. He's a great guy. He will not let OpenAI rest. He does not leave them alone. It's not even poking the bear. It's just like, he just like keeps kicking the dog. Like, it's just like, he keeps filing lawsuits. And I don't know. I think it's interesting. So the headline here is that Elon Musk asked Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg to join XAI bid to buy OpenAI filing show. And just like a year and a half ago, the headline was Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg to fight in the Coliseum. So they were about to wrestle, and now they're the enemy of your, what is it? The enemy of your enemy is your friend. And
yep,
so
100%.
So Elon and Mark Zuckerberg were reportedly going to take over OpenAI for $97.4 billion. What the heck? Are they trying to get rid of OpenAI? Like
Yes.
What's your take on this?
OpenAI is a bane to both of these fellows. And Elon Musk has publicly shown his absolute, I don't know what word is strong enough, utter disdain, hatred, like whatever word is strong enough. Yeah, I mean, he hates Sam Altman. And this went from because to your point, Sam and Elon largely went in and started OpenAI, and Sam kind of spat in Elon's face. Now, one of the things you'll also find is everywhere along the trail of Sam Altman does not have friends. every single former business relationship Sam had is now an enemy. Nobody likes Sam. And even his own internal company now has all left. The same executive team that launched GPT-3 are all gone. Sam is a slime ball. Nobody likes him. And Elon is his absolute number one public enemy. And so Elon is going to crush him. Elon has made zero qualms about this. He wants to crush Sam Altman. And so in this kind of a case, this is a two-part win because Elon wanted to get with Zuckerberg, one, to get in good graces. Elon definitely also doesn't miss words about who he's willing to be friends with. And so even while he wanted to fight Zuckerberg, it was kind of a fun thing with a buddy, right? Like him and Zuck get along and they actually have fairly similar views on AI and a lot of that stuff, right? And so they do really agree with this. But this is also a power move, one, to crush OpenAI. And Zuckerberg wants to get rid of OpenAI. They've just stolen a lot of its users, right? Those 700 million users, a lot of that are essentially fleeing from the Meta platforms.
So it looks like I'm wondering how much of this is just for show, just to kind of make Sam Altman squirm a little bit in his chair, because OpenAI filed back in its counterclaim and subpoenaed a bunch of records, and Mark Zuckerberg's Meta argued that OpenAI's request for documents are overly burdensome and that OpenAI should obtain relevant communications from Musk and XAI instead. So Mark is a little bit like, hey, leave me out of this. And meanwhile, OpenAI is subpoenaing Meta for communications between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk, and that'll take years to come out, even if it does get granted, and it'll probably be heavily redacted. But it would be fascinating because I love in Walter Isaacson's book, he has a lot of Elon's communications when he came to the takeover of X with like Larry Ellison, and so it would just be fascinating to see that conversation between some of the most brilliant minds that we have talking about this. I can see him like, hey, bro, do you want to just mess with Sam and put a bid in? Because they didn't sign the letter of intent. So I thought that was, I think Elon did, but Zuckerberg nor Meta signed the letter of intent. So I could totally see Elon on some week and be like, hey, bro, you want to buy OpenAI? And then Zuckerberg's like, sure. And then soon enough, Mark's name is all over filings. And so I don't know. I think this bid predominantly was just to make Sam squirm a little. I don't know. Do you think there was any more merit to it than that?
I mean, it's hard to know. Elon, this could have been, Elon and Zuckerberg and a lot of others spent a lot of time in the White House, around when Trump was originally elected, and they were all there, so was Jeff Bezos and a whole bunch of others. You could just kind of, like you said, kind of imagine, and this would have been about that time frame, right? In January, February time frame. And you could have just, those conversations may have started in January around the, inauguration, and you could see them saying, hey, bro, like, let's go mess with OpenAI, right? Yeah. And anything that can slow OpenAI down and cost them money, Elon know he can outspend OpenAI. So some of these kind of plays are literally just a poker game to see how can I outspend him.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good take. I want to cover this story really quick. This kind of I believe it was yesterday. Let me go ahead and share this. So there was rumors that this was going to happen, and then it looks like it finally actually did happen, that Elon Musk made good on his threat to sue Apple, claiming OpenAI bias in the app. Do you think Elon is sad that this is coming right off the heels of the news that Apple's going to work with Google? Do you think that Elon was trying to throw his ring in the hat to have him work with Grok and XAI?
100%. Absolutely. I can't imagine. I mean, and yes, I do think, I like Elon Musk as well, because I think part of these are part of his chess game that he's playing. But on the flip side is he's definitely, unhappy that Grok wasn't chosen to be the one for them to partner with, and that XAI was. But pretty much Apple's brand is not Grok, nor is it some of the semi-flippant behavior that frequently is Elon Musk.
Yeah. No, it'd be hard to, like, a company like Apple, it would be hard to align with somebody as volatile as Elon can be.
For sure.
And right after him falling out of graces with the president and Apple trying to fall into graces with the president, I think the relationship with Musk and Trump is at a healthy respect. I guess it went from a falling out to more of a healthy respect. But yeah, I mean, I see Elon's frustration here that they're not ranking on the Apple App Store as high as other chatbots, and they're not being advertised nearly as well. But I wonder how much ad dollars can buy some of those vendors. I don't know, but it's just Elon can throw lawsuits around like
It,
I don't know.
if ad dollars could have solved this problem, Elon would have solved it with ad dollars. There's again a deeper play here because one, I do think it's partly because they weren't, it looks like Apple probably will go with Microsoft or with Google. Grok is never going to partner. Well, I mean, Grok has an interesting relationship with Microsoft because Microsoft's now hosting the latest Grok. So one of the only people to host the latest Grok API is actually Azure with Microsoft. So you can see that's where he's trying to play, it's a game of axes and allies right now, right? And he's trying to play and he's picking who he wants as his allies and who he wants as the ones who he wants to oppose with. He's clearly throwing his hat that he's willing to go to battle against Apple. And again, does he think he's going to win? I don't know. I'm not sure if he knows he's going to win or if this is just a lawsuit can also be a really cheap way to get a good press release.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. Once you keep suing everybody, like I think we've already read in this short 30 minutes that we've had together that Elon has already sued 2 people or he's filed 2 legal documents to grab headlines. And I don't know. I think that Elon has a team of corporate attorneys that are really good at what they do. And,
Yep.
and they can whip out filings pretty quickly. All right, cool.
Yeah, you got to know that if you're working for Elon Musk, he is definitely going to use lawsuits as a strategy. It is definitely a tool in his tool belt. I wouldn't even call it a weapon. I would call it a tool in his tool belt.
Yep, lawfare. Cool. Well, once you get to be that big, it's hard to. I mean, once you're competing with companies that big, it's hard to actually get their attention without a court legally demanding it.
Yep.
So I want to jump into this next. I wanted to talk about your next point, OpenAI's internal meltdown. What's going on inside of OpenAI?
It's more than them just losing talent. Like I mentioned before, every single one of the C-suite, every one of the executives that were there on the ChatGPT 3 launch are gone. Sam's the only one left. And so when, in 2.5 years, or call it 3 years, you've lost every single one of your executive team except for the founder. Now, the thing that Sam Altman is good at is he's good at raising money. It's where he actually started. He started originally with his own company. He went to Y Combinator. He, friended up to Paul Graham and some of those, and then ultimately became president of Y Combinator, which positioned him to just basically get to know every single funding circle like anywhere in the US. And so he's then ridden that into the OpenAI success. And that's really been one of the core talents that has given OpenAI their success. So he's definitely having, a lot of, meltdown, right? Sam Altman publicly complains about Meta's, cultural problems. And he can say that, but he's saying that because he's losing everybody. And so Zuck is at least good enough to be able to attract the people.
Yeah.
Money will not be the only thing to attract people like this.
Yes, I agree. I think it's opportunities and projects, and I think something that is really exciting to me, and I know that we've hashed this out quite a bit, so I won't spend a lot of time on it. But after we finished our podcast last week, this report came out that Meta to unveil Hypernova smart glasses with the display wristband at Connect next month. So this is something that really excites me because I think that these glasses or this product is going to be everything that the Apple Vision Pro wasn't. It's going to be lighter. It's going to be augmented. It's going to be something that you can wear in public and not feel weird. It's something that you can, I don't know if it'll be like a media player, but I think I'm thinking of it like the Apple Watch for your eyes. And I think that if they can incorporate any type of good LLM or good voice type of AI communication, then I think this will be a hit with younger generations. And I think it'll be a really good cross between what he wanted to do with the metaverse, but not quite going like the Apple Vision Pro. What's your take?
I'm going to play a little devil's advocate here. I
Okay.
mean, I recognize that these are things that are going to go. I don't think anybody wants things on their faces. I don't think people want them. I mean, I know my generation doesn't. I recently was doing an interview for one of our registered apprentices. And so we do at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers. So we bring in people who don't have experience and we then train them on the job and pay them to get training. So I was doing an interview for one of these registered apprentices and the guy had a pair of glasses on that looked eerily like this, like the current Ray-Ban version, that is really kind of the forerunner to this. And I didn't even want to finish the interview with the candidate because if I thought for a second that it was one of these type of glasses, no way. So if somebody shows up in a job interview with one of these, you're in the middle of a corporate meeting and somebody's wearing one of these, first thing I would demand is that everybody take off their glasses. And suddenly now it's like I'm pat searching everybody. I personally can't stand the concept of this, but Zuck's been hell-bent on trying to get something strapped onto people's faces for 15 years now.
Yeah.
When he bought Oculus.
Fair enough. But Oculus has been great, and I think that it's great for games and the video game aspect. I think somebody's just trying to break into the actual usability. And to your point, well, I was with somebody the other night, and we went to a comedy club, and he had on the Meta Ray-Ban glasses, and they like take your phones and they lock them in a little pouches so you can't like record or anything. And they caught his glasses. I didn't think they were, and he wasn't using them to like record anything. They're prescription glasses, but they're even trained now to watch for those glasses. So just like you don't take your phone in certain settings, I think like you wouldn't have your phone up in a job interview. I don't think you should have these glasses for sure. But yeah, no, that's a good take. That's a good counterclaim, and I think we'll see next month how the announcement goes. And hey, maybe we can, if it's an evening one, maybe we can live stream it together, and I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I mean, $800 price point. Now I'm going to flip on the other side because the $800 price point is where Apple failed. Apple failed because they made their tech horrifically expensive. Now, Apple won't sell anything unless they make 50% profit. It's just like that's been a rule from Steve Jobs on down. Like if we cannot make this level of profit, it's not worth our time. Meta's willing to do a little bit more R&D on this, right? But again, what he's trying to build won't cost him $800, so he'll still make a ton of money on them. But that $800 price point will attract a ton of people. So like he's got a good shot at it, but I think that's going to come down to the success of the super intelligence team that he's putting together. Because I guarantee this is one of the big things they're being told, get this working, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we get this working? What can you guys come up with? And I guarantee you he's trying to push the buck there.
Totally. Sweet. So to wrap it up with, I'll have one more question for you to wrap it up with. I'm kind of trying to reframe in my mind. I know that we talk a lot about the AI bubble bursting because that's something easy that people can relate to. I'm kind of thinking of this AI bubble more as an S curve, something that accelerated really quickly and will have gradual type of improvements. Like GPT-5 was still an improvement, but when Sam Altman is tweeting pictures of the Death Star and like saying like this is going to be groundbreaking, I think it's their fault. I don't think it is the technology's fault. I think the technology will continue to improve. Like phones have gotten better, cameras have gotten better. But I think that they're just trying to sell their stock and fundraise. Like you said, Sam Altman's one of the kings of fundraising. And I'm trying to reframe it in my mind, rather than saying a bubble is bursting. Like this is an S curve of technology, and we saw a rapid improvement. And I don't know when the next S curve of AI will be. But I do think that, I don't know. That's kind of how I've been trying to reframe it in my mind. How do you see it as a developer and technical standpoint?
I agree with you. I actually, when people say, I say on my channel all the time, all the bubbles bursting, and people will be like, "Oh, that means AI is going to go away." No, AI is not going away. Anyway, what happened here, and if you talk to somebody who's been in machine learning for a long time, LLMs are not new. ChatGPT did not invent the LLM. They really took RAG and they took transformers and they hyperscaled it. And they figured out how to scale it and then how to make it usable. And when they launched ChatGPT 3, it grabbed the whole world. Look how amazing this is. LLMs had been around for a decade and a half before. And so what they did is they took this and they now brought it to mainstream, right? And so this is the same thing we saw with the .com bubble burst, right? They took the internet, they hyped it up, They overinflated the valuations. That's what a bubble is. It's talking about the valuations, right? That's what's actually going to burst. These crazy, stupid, I got an idea, I can go get $1 billion because I have an AI on my name. That's what's going to go away. Technology is here. And those who know how to build on it are learning its strengths and its weaknesses. We use LLMs in almost every one of our client projects right now. And we're using that plus a lot of other technologies. And when you couple them together, you can build intelligently. So what you're going to see emerge is you're going to see a technology that's going to power a lot of the development of the future. And you're going to see LLMs become a part of our daily lives. They're not going away. But these crazy hype valuations and the promises of AGI are disappearing.
Yeah. One more quick question. As somebody that manages developers, do you ever find yourself catching developers and saying like, hey, you're relying too much on AI or LLMs, or do you find yourself saying the opposite? You're not relying enough on them?
Both. I do find myself saying both. I'm constantly teaching both seniors and juniors use AI more, right? You should be leveraging it as a tool. If you're not, you need to make sure you're using it. But on the flip side, every single piece of code has to be double reviewed right now before it goes into production because of this. We may, but so we have strict patterns around code reviews and those kind of things. And so I've, put, in every one of the projects, I have somebody whose primary job is to be reviewing the code. And part of this is because there's a difference right now. And there's a saying that I heard is that AI can write code, it cannot build software. And I think that's a huge thing to understand about AI right now. It can write a ton of code. It does not know how to build software.
Yeah, no, that's a great take. I think I'm glad that I got that. Because I was curious if you were, yeah, no, that answered my question. Sweet. Well, I don't have anything else. I think we kind of hashed through this week's topics. Do you have anything else?
Nope. It's been great and fun to visit as always.
Yeah. So if you guys haven't already, consider subscribing. My name is Meet McKay. This is Startup Hack. We go live every Tuesday morning where we talk about the latest tech drama, the AI drama, the business drama. And we jump into the finances of these companies to help you and to help us understand what is actually going on out there. Is this an AI bubble? What's going on and how can you best navigate it as an investor, as somebody that uses the technology, and just somebody that likes to pay attention to the news?
Yeah, great time. Good time to visit.
Sweet. All right, Startup Hack. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thanks, everybody.
See ya.